What's up, everybody? On July 2nd, 2020, Netflix dropped the newest version of Unsolved Mysteries, and it's generally been met with positive reaction by most people. I'm kind of an Unsolved Mysteries fanatic. If you can't tell from the Robert Stack shirt, the Robert Stack tattoo, and the fact that I've hosted a podcast about the show Unsolved Mysteries called Uncovering Unexplained Mysteries for the past 4 years, so I am a self-proclaimed Unsolved Mysteries expert. I want to go and take a dive into the new Unsolved Mysteries, give my thoughts, and let's explore some of the critiques and see how valid they may or may not be. This is Dancing with Ghosts. So first I want to talk about the intro of this show because the music was always such an important aspect of the original Unsolved Mysteries. I have some notes here. You're probably going to see my eyes darting down looking at my talking points here, but I like the new intro. I thought it was good. I like that they retained the same melodies from the first Unsolved Mysteries, although I will say the new intro isn't as bombastic as the old one. I mean, the old one had those synthesized drum machine beats, doom, doom, do ga, doom, doom, do ga, you know. A lot of the old music cues in the original Unsolved Mysteries are going to be seen as dated nowadays, so of course they're not going to be in the new show because this new show is aimed at a new audience. Since we're on the topic of new audiences, let's delve into that. Now, Unsolved Mysteries is a fantastic IP that is still owned by the original executive producers John Cosgrove and Terry Moyer. You know, for your casual Netflix person, if you're just on Netflix scrolling through the various titles, when you see a show called Unsolved Mysteries, you don't have to know anything about the 90s TV show or Robert Stack to be interested in it. It's a great title, Unsolved Mysteries. Who's not going to want to check that out of pure curiosity's sake? It has definitely been modernized. They've taken a lot of the old aspects of the show and kind of replaced them. They want to attract that new audience. They want to get new people in the door because there are going to be a lot of people who just come out from off the street who just click on the icon on Netflix just to check it out. So, you know, because of that, the new Unsolved Mysteries is in HD. It's super crisp. The music is very, sparse and unassuming and unobtrusive. And of course, there's no mullets, mustaches, or huge glasses on the interviewees and the actors like there were in the original segments of Unsolved Mysteries. This is a modern show for a modern audience. Some people like that, others not so much. But I think one thing the original fans can agree on is the emotional overload in the intro of the show when they show Robert Stack at the end of the intro in the background. Like, oh, goosebumps, man. That was so freaking cool. Like, good on you. I know that was a John Cosgrove thing because John Cosgrove was super close with Robert Stack and his family when Robert Stack was still around. And Cosgrove did a beautiful tribute to Robert Stack on the Unsolved Mysteries Ultimate Collection box set. It might be on YouTube. It really will choke you up if you watch it. So I love that they added that cameo in there. It's kind of a wink and a nod to the old fans that, look, we haven't forgotten where we've come from and we haven't forgotten about Robert Stack's contribution to the original show. So since we're talking about Robert Stack and we're talking about hosts, let's talk about how this show doesn't have a host, which is one of the complaints by some of the people who've watched this show so far. So if you had a new host that was hosting this show on top of all the other stuff that I just mentioned about, you know, the crispness of the HD and the no background music and all that, if you had a new host on top of all that, this would essentially be a new show. It would be Unsolved Mysteries in name only. So I think that it's better that they don't have a host, and I think it's a lot more of a tribute to Robert Stack to not have a host. You know, let the victims do the talking, let the police and the investigators and the coroners, let them do the talking. That's fine with me. One thing I will say about the new Unsolved Mysteries, and it just has to be said factually, it's not scary. It's just not. The old Unsolved Mysteries, what's one of the first things everybody says about it when you ask them about it? Oh my god, that show scared the shit out of me as a kid. Dude, Robert Stack's deep baritone voice added so much gravitas to whatever he was talking about for whatever story. Then, of course, you had the creepy, macabre music that filled the air as Robert Stack narrated. And you had these bizarre details that were unveiled. The murderer was not caught. The UFO floating over your house, no one knows how it got there or what it's doing, and the ghost could be in your house right now, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it because it's still unsolved. Just by virtue of shit that's scary, the new Unsolved Mysteries has none of that going for it. One thing it does have going for it, though, is interesting stories. That is something that the old show and the new show definitely share, and that is just fantastic, super interesting stories that I'll break down right now. So the first episode of the new Unsolved Mysteries features that of Ray Rivera. Now, this was a guy who was married, and he moved to, what was it? It was, anyway, it doesn't matter where he moved to. Basically, his body was found crashed through a parking garage into some conference room. This dude, out of nowhere one day, got a phone call, ran out of his house like he had just been summoned to something, and he had to be there really quick, and the next thing you know, he is found at the bottom of the Belvedere Hotel, crashed through the top of a parking garage. They don't know if he jumped. They don't know if he was thrown. They don't even know how he ended up where he ended up because, anyway, the top of the Belvedere Hotel, he was found 40 feet away from that. So he would have had to have made this massive run and jump to clear that, and they don't think he could have done that. His cell phone was found undamaged at the bottom, along with his glasses. Creepy ass case. I can definitely tell you that the old Unsolved Mysteries would have certainly covered this case. The second story was that of Patrice Andres and her mysterious disappearance from her salon. The main thing that stuck out to me in this episode was her asshole ex-husband, Rob Andres. This guy was just a real piece of shit. He basically hated Patrice's son, Pistol, who you weren't really given a lot of background on Pistol, so Pistol could have been a real asshole for all we know, but he seemed cool in the interview and the show. But anyway, Patrice's ex-husband, Rob, changed the locks on the door when Patrice died, so Pistol couldn't gain access to the house that he lived in. And then when Patrice's remains were finally found, Rob kept them from Patrice's son, Pistol. Like, what a dick. Our third case is the House of Terrors, which I honestly feel bad. I have not seen that one. I believe the entire episode is in French, so I didn't really have the patience to sit down with that one yet, although I do plan on watching it. Next, we have the case of Alonzo Brooks. He went to a seemingly racist small town in Kansas called Lacine with his buddies to some house party. His buddies throughout the night slowly but surely left Alonzo there to where he was finally there by himself with nobody that he actually knew. And it was kind of an accident. Wasn't really on purpose, just kind of a thing that happened. The next day, Alonzo never returned home. His family went out and searched for him and eventually found his body at a small creek by the house that was used for the party. His family believes that he was murdered and it was racially motivated. This is definitely another type of case that would be covered on the original Unsolved Mysteries. They did not shy away from covering hate crimes and racially motivated crimes, which I thought was very responsible for them at the time, and I'm glad they're still doing that. The next case that we have is easily the worst, and that is the Berkshire UFO, which, I mean, you know, dude, I got a freaking UFO on my arm here. I love this kind of stuff. So for me to say that this is the worst case, in the new batch of Unsolved Mysteries episodes is really telling you something. It was just a really limp-wristed telling of a UFO story. When you are going to talk about UFOs, you want some creepy music. You want some kind of you want to see the UFO. And CG has really, really improved in the last 20 or 30 years since the first Unsolved Mysteries. And they could have shown and alluded more to the UFO itself. Instead, they kind of skirted around it by just having images of bright lights and really shitty drawings by mullet Donald Trump. That guy was a freaking clown in that episode. It was just really weak. That one really could have benefited from a host, I believe. It was kind of disappointing. The UFOs were some of my favorite segments on the original Unsolved Mysteries, so, you know, hopefully they'll get it better next batch of episodes they release. And then finally we have the case of Sandy Klemp, which I think is easily my favorite case of the entire batch of new episodes. This was basically a redneck white trash whore who slept around with a lot of men. She had 6 daughters. She eventually killed one of her husbands. One of her older daughters, Lena, saw the murder and I believe helped her clean up the evidence. Lena got pissed off at her mother when she got older and threatened to testify against her or report her to the police. Then Lena mysteriously goes missing. And Lena has a son. And guess who gains custody of that son? The mother, Sandy. I think Sandy killed her own daughter, just like she killed her husband. At some point in the episode, Sandy threatens one of her other daughters when her boyfriend puts a gun in her daughter's face after her other daughter also threatens to rat out the mom. So that was all kinds of convoluted with that story. Very gripping. I mean, it had you definitely interested the whole time that episode was going on. Very good way to end the series of episodes as well. So I think overall, this is a good show. Now, do I think it is a good Unsolved Mysteries show? Nah. It's missing the X Factor, man. It's missing the that intangible thing that made Unsolved Mysteries great. Now, obviously, it's got, you know, the music is lacking and there's no Robert Stack, so that right there is going to affect it a lot, but it's not Unsolved Mysteries, really, but it's just a solid show, and I'm glad that they're carrying on the name with something that's finally worthy, or more worthy than a revamp that shall not be named. And, you know, it's bringing Unsolved Mysteries to a new generation, and they're probably going to enjoy it, and it's probably going to scare them much less, because no Robert Stack and no creepy music. And, I mean, at the end of the day, let's be real, it's helping people solve, you know, the mysteries of their loved ones being murdered or whatever else. So, much like the original show, it's doing a public service, and it's, you know, entertaining people at the same time. And like I said, anything that brings more popularity to the Unsolved Mysteries brand is a good thing. Is this show as good as the old one? No. Could it have been better? Yes. But if you made it through the 2008 Dennis Farina revamp, then you also know that this show could have been a hell of a lot worse. Tell me what your thoughts are on the new show in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from any listeners of the podcast or anybody who watches my channel. My name is Josh Cannon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, have a good rest of your night.